No, I can tell you within my unit at the time I took it, there were probably 20 of us that took it, and only 3 of us passed it at the time. Um, yeah, it's not a very high pass rate.
Now, over the course, let me ask you this: when you first sort of enter into the cars units, are you just sort of you go through the training and then you are on call and get sent out on the road by yourself, or how does that work?
No, you first get initially assigned to a field training officer, and then at that point you shadow the field training officer to various crashes.
And is there any sort of set time period for how long that shadowing process goes on for? Or no?
It's not really a set time. It's more based on experience, on how many crashes you go to and how much experience you have in the field. And then they basically, well, if they feel like if you're deemed qualified, then they'll send you on the road on your own.
And over the course of your years within the cars of the reconstruction unit, approximately how many crashes have you responded to and investigated?
As of now, I've been to approximately 196 crashes, and I've probably assisted on another 100, 150 crashes.
And of those, of all those crashes that you've responded to, investigated, if you know percentage-wise or number-wise, approximately how many of those have been crashes involving pedestrians?
I know I've been to approximately 55 pedestrian crashes, and I've assisted others on pedestrian crashes also. So, I mean, 55 out of 196.
Now, with respect, if I could, turn your attention to January 29th, 2022. Do you recall that date?
I do.
And at some point over the course of that date, were you contacted by somebody in regard to a pedestrian collision that occurred, in the town of Canton?
I was.
And do you recall who was it that first reached out, or how did you first become aware of this?
My sergeant, Sergeant Brian Mahoney, was the one who called me at the time.
And initially, as far as your involvement was concerned, what was your understanding as the initial request for your involvement in this?
My initial request was to image the airbag control module, do a little inspection, test the vehicle, and map the scene out.
Now, you've used that term a couple of times, and if I could just ask you to explain it a bit for the jury. When you say an airbag control module or an ACM, what is that, and what do you understand that term to mean in the context of crash reconstruction?
The ACM is the module in a car that controls the airbags and the seatbelt pretensioners.
And what you were referencing before as far as being a CDR, having taken CDR trainings and being a CDR instructor, what, if any, relationship does the CDR have to ACM?
CDR is just crash data retrieval software. It's the software that we use to image or download an airbag control module.
And can you explain to the jury sort of the process of physically sort of how that's done as far as what are you doing to the vehicle in order to download that information?
Yes. There are 2 ways really to download a vehicle. It's either one is direct to module or just direct to the vehicle through the DLC port or the diagnostic link connector. The direct to module, we don't use the direct to module if a vehicle had no power. Then we would have to go directly find the module inside the vehicle and go right to that specific module. But if the car has power, we would go right to the DLC port, which is the same port that you see when you're like a technician would do the diagnostics on a car. They would plug underneath the steering wheel, and then we'll get there, extract the information from there.
Now, once that information is extracted, what, if any, training have you received in regard to reading or interpreting the data that's extracted from?
Yes, I've been certified through as a CDR analyst, and I've taken 2 classes on it now.
Now, sir, turning your attention to February 1st, 2022, on that date, where, if anywhere, did you go in relation to your investigation in this case?
I went to the Canton Police Department.
Now, at some point prior to that, were you made aware, or did you do any research into sort of what the weather was like around the time? What was reported to you initially as around the time that the crash occurred?
I reported that I know it was snowing and turned to a blizzard at the time.
Now, initially on February 1st, 2022, where did you go?
on Canton Police Department.
Now, sir, at some point in time on that date, did you also have occasion to go to a residence or a street called Fairview Road in the town of Canton?
I did.
And specifically, there was a address that you were directed to, is that correct?
That's correct.
And who, if anyone, did you go there with?
I believe it was one of the Canton Police officers, Lieutenant Paul Gallagher, I think his name was. I met him there.
And without anything specific as to what was told to you by Lieutenant Gallagher, what was sort of the purpose of having Lieutenant Gallagher there with you at that time?
He was going to show me where basically the evidence that they have at that point was.
Now, in addition to that, were you also able to, you're familiar with another specialized unit within the state police called the CERT team?
I am.
And at some points, did you have access to certain diagrams created by Lieutenant O'Hara within the CERT unit?
Yes, I was.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked as Exhibit 135 and 136. Ask you to just review that until we finish. And I'm sorry, Mr. Jackson.
That's okay.
You recognize those, sir?
I do.
And, Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could just publish that briefly for the jury.
Okay.
Ms. Gilman, if I could actually have Exhibit 136. And Trooper Paul, do you recognize what's up on the screen as Exhibit 136?
I do.
And this is the diagram that you were able to view from the created by Lieutenant O'Hara from the CERT team.
Yes, it was.
And what's contained, at least from this overhead shot, is that fair and accurate portrayal of the roadway or the conditions of the roadway, absent obviously the weather at the time that you went out there on February 1st.
Correct.
Ms. Gilman, you can take that. Thank you. Sorry, forgive me, Your Honor, if I could just have 1 second.
Sure.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Sir, I'm going to retrieve that from you. I'm going to put 2 other photographs before you. Ask you to just look at those until I'm finished.
Yep.
And do you recognize those, sir?
I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
They are pictures that were in my report. They're Google images of the roadway.
And one facing from the northbound direction, one facing from the southbound. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I'm going to see if you can introduce the minutes and next to exhibit.
No objection.
Okay.
I'll need to,
And Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could just publish these, first return them to the witness and then publish them briefly.
Yes.
to the jury. Trooper, directing your attention to the screen, what you have before you is that, what's up on the screen, excuse me, is that what you have before you now marked as Exhibit 582?
Yes, it is.
And if you could, there should be a laser pointer on the desk somewhere there before you, sir. If you could, just using that laser pointer, direct the jury's attention to sort of what we're looking at in this particular photograph of the road.
All right. So this is Ferry Road. It's facing northbound. 34 Fairview Road would be onto the left in this area.
Now, with regard to the roadway, when you went there, what if any observations or what if anything did you note about sort of the roadway surface or markings on the roadway or the general overall condition of the roadway?
The roadway was, there's no significant difference, anything significant with the roadway.
As far as the roadway material, were you able to observe whether or not it was sort of asphalt or concrete or anything
Right.
else?
Yes, it was an asphalt roadway.
And as far as the markings within the roadway, what if any observations did you make of those?
There was double yellow stone line, white fog lines on both sides of the edge of the road. Is that what we're going after? The roadways?
And then as far as adjacent to the roadway or adjacent to the fog line, what if anything did you observe there?
So as you look at the picture, the left side has asphalt curbings. These are about 5 inches tall, same on both sides, and there's a sidewalk along the right side of the roadway here.
And the side with the asphalt curbings, that's the same side that 34 Fairview was located on, is that correct?
Correct.
Ms. Gilman, if I could have the next slide. And Trooper Paul, if I could direct your attention to the next exhibit before you, I believe it's 583. And again, sir, what's up on the screen, is that what you have before you as 583?
Yes, it is.
And if you could, again, using the laser pointer, just briefly direct the jury's attention to what, if anything, you note as far as from this perspective.
Yeah, so this is the southbound 34 Fairview would be on the right side here.
Ms. Gilman, you can take that down. May I approach just to retrieve, Your Honor?
Yes.
Now, Trooper, with regard to the roadway as far as Fairview Road, what, if anything, did you note in regard to postings regarding the speed limit on that particular roadway?
Yes, the posting for a speed limit is 30 miles per hour. At this area, it's only posted 30 miles per hour for northbound operators, and I believe it was like 19 Fairview Road is posted in front of. For the southbound operators, it was not posted.
And so for a northbound operator, that would again be someone where the residents of 34 Fairview Road will be on the left-hand side of the road, is that correct?
That's correct.
And with regard to the width of the lanes, or what, if any, measurements did you take in regard to the lanes or the roadway itself?
Yeah, each travel lane was approximately 12 feet, and the overall width was approximately 27 feet.
Now, as far as measurements being conducted with regard to the scene, what, if anything, did you use or employ to make those measurements, or what, if any, devices did you use?
Yes, I mapped the scene with it's called a Leica GNSS GPS total station, and also used a drone.
That's a UAS, is that correct?
Correct.
The drone, I mean?
Yes.
And with regard to each of those, as far as the GPS mapping and the drone, have you received any sort of specialized training in regard to employment of each of those tools?
Yes, I have been certified to use the Leica, and I've also have a Part 107 license for the drone.
Now, as far as starting with the Leica or the GPS, if you could explain to the jury sort of what that is and how you use that device in order to, as you've termed it, map the scene.
Yes, it's essentially what surveyors would use to make roadways. It uses satellites and GPS data plus cell phone data to make marks on the roadway, or actually not marks, but just mark points in the roadway that are within millimeters of the device.
And with regard to the drone device, sir, how does that, can you explain to the jury sort of how that works and how that's used?
Yeah, so the drone, and we fly the drone around the area. We set it to set up a grid pattern to fly around the scene. And while it's flying this grid pattern, it takes a series of photographs. And these photographs are also GPS marked. So once we get all the photographs in, we throw it into a program, and the program will essentially stitch us all together. And then once we get that picture, we throw it into a diagramming system.
And that diagramming system, have you also received training in regard to utilization of that diagramming system?
Yes, I have.
And the one that you're currently using within the CARS unit, what is that diagramming system or software called?
It's IMS 360.
And Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes.
Sir, I'm showing you 4 documents, ask you to just review those.
Okay.
When you finish. And do you recognize those, sir?
I do.
And what do you recognize those to be?
These are the diagrams that we print out through the program.
And the last one is the drone image, is that correct?
Yes, they're all drone images. The last one is just one that was put into my diagram, and I labeled it as a drone image.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
I'll multi-seek to introduce and submit the next 4 exhibits.
No objection.
Okay.
Yes. That's my fault. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Now, Cooper Paul, are you familiar with the term, well, let me ask you this, in regard to the roadway itself, what, if anything else, beyond sort of lane width and overall width, what, if any, other measurements did you take there?
So we took measurements for the evidence.
And let me ask it this way, as far as with elevation or incline of the roadway, what, if any, measurements did you take in regard to that?
Yeah, so we took the elevation and roadway measurements, or the elevation for the roadway.
And where in relation to the residents at 34 Fairview did you take that? Sort of the entire street or just in the general area of that specific address?
In the general area of that specific address.
And from your measurements as far as, well, let me ask you this, how is measurement regarded to elevation or incline? What kind of tool do you use for that?
We have a level, the digital level, that we'll place on the roadway, and we'll get a measurement from that.
Now, with regard to the measurements that you took of the elevation or the incline in the roadway, anything, or what, if anything, of significance did you find from that?
So this roadway had approximately plus or minus 1 to 2 degrees.
So nothing significant, is that fair to say?
Nothing significant, yes.
Now, sir, through your training and experience as a crash reconstructionist, are you familiar with the term related to crash reconstruction called roadway evidence?
Yes.
And can you explain to the jury sort of what your understanding of that term is and what types of things could be termed as roadway evidence?
Roadway evidence is anything that's related to the collision you're investigating at the time. It could be anything from vehicle debris, gouge marks, tire marks, anything that's related to a vehicle or whatever type of crash you are investigating. It could be vehicle or pedestrians.
So any sort of anything from either the vehicle or pedestrian as well, is that correct?
Correct.
So pieces from a vehicle, holding items from a pedestrian, correct?
Yes.
Now, with respect to both your review of the CERT team diagrams as well as speaking with members of the Canton Police Department, were you able to then plot certain pieces of roadway evidence onto those diagrams that you that I just showed you a few moments ago?
Yes, I was.
Now, with reference to, you're familiar also through your training and experience when it comes to pedestrian crashes, as far as sort of the physics or kinematics of how pedestrians interact with vehicles in the course of a collision?
Yes, I am.
Now, I'm going to ask you just a couple of terminology questions when it comes to items that are involved in a collision, sort of simple Newtonian physics, Newton's first law. Can you explain what that is to the jury and sort of how that pertains to any collision between two objects?
The first law?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the when an object stays in motion or stays at rest, will stay at motion or rest until acted upon by an outside force.
Now, with respect to, are you familiar also with a crash reconstruction term called final rest?
Yes, I am.
And are there different derivations of final rest as far as controlled final rest versus uncontrolled final rest?
Correct.
And can you explain just first to the jury what final rest means in relation to crash reconstruction, and then what, if any, differences there are between a controlled final rest and an uncontrolled final rest?
Yes, the final rest is what we use for describe the area where a pedestrian came to stop after the collision. It's immediately after the collision. This is where they first stopped. Or a vehicle, usually immediately after collision, is where this vehicle first stopped. And a controlled final rest is when an operator actually controls the vehicle to the stop, and as opposed to the uncontrolled final rest is when there is no control. It's usually acted upon by outside forces that will control the vehicle or pedestrian to its final rest.
And, Your Honor, with the court's permission, if I could publish what's now been marked as Exhibits 584 through 587 for the jury.
Yes.
Ms. Gilman, if I could first have a diagram, please. And Your Honor, may I approach this to return the exhibits to the witness? Ms. Gilman, if I could ask you to zoom in just a little bit on that. And now, Trooper, what you have up on the screen, is that what you have before you as first in that set of exhibits?
Yes, it is.
Now, using the latest exhibits before you, if you could, I would ask you to draw the jury's attention or direction to what, if anything, of significance you have noted within this diagram.
Okay. Who is the pointer?
Yes.
Okay. So in this time, I labeled each part of evidence. So right here would be the pedestrian's final rest, and they're all, since there's so many put together, everything was labeled with a red arrow that would be pointing to where the final rest is. And this is where a glass cup was found, and these are the red and clear plastic pieces. That's where they were found, and the pedestrian's shoe was found here. The smaller versions here in the light blue is one's a fire hydrant, the flagpole. This is a label for the street 34, and obviously the street name Fairview Road here.
Now, as far as measurements were concerned, what, if anything, were you able to do to measure sort of between different points of roadway evidence, or specifically from the pedestrian or Mr. O'Keefe's final rest in reference to other items that you have depicted on the diagram?
So we're talking about Mike. So on these diagrams, it's hard to see here, but it is a scale diagram. The diagram itself is scale. Once you put a rule up to the actual paper, it's scale. I've also have on here, sorry to see, but I think it's right here. They're called ground control points. They're little X's on the roadway. They're used for the drones imaging, and using the drone imagings will use those in order to help put all the pictures back together. At the time of this, I measured between each point from ground control point 1 to 2 and put it as approximately 50 feet. And 2 to 3 is 50 feet, and 3 to 4 is 50 feet. So it kind of is a second way to measure off the diagram, and also using the program to measure to different points while using the diagram.
And as far as starting with the shoe that you have depicted in this diagram, what was the measurement of the shoe away from Mr. O'Keefe's body?
I believe the shoe was approximately, I have in my thing, it's approximately 10 feet away.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, may the trooper refer to his report just for the specific measurements?
Yes.
Okay.
And Honor, Trooper, with regard to the shoe, how far away approximately was that from Mr. O'Keefe's body?
9 feet.
And did you also have a measurement for how far away the glass cup pieces were from Mr. O'Keefe's body?
Yeah, 1 foot.
And for the red plastic you have labeled on this diagram as A, how far away from Mr. O'Keefe's body was that?
7 feet.
Now, with regard to the directionality, you also measured sort of directionality as far as the 9 feet that the shoe was away. Which direction was it?
Each evidence was measured from the pedestrian's final rest. So the shoe was 9 feet southeast from the pedestrian's final rest.
And if you could, using the laser pointer on the screen, as far as the directionality of sports, if you could first direct the jury's attention to where Mr. O'Keefe's final rest is, and then as far as the directionality of southeast from that, where is it?
Okay. So right here, pedestrian's final rest. It's more right there. The shoe's right here, so it would be kind of southeast. I have an arrow pointing north to kind of give an extra.
And the glass cup that was 1 foot away, which direction was that?
It was about 1 foot north. I think it was found like right next to him. So
And the red plastic that you have labeled as A, again, that was 7 feet. In which direction was that, sir?
that one was east, so it was right here.
And as far as the clear plastic, what was the measurement and what was the directionality for that item, sir?
10 feet southeast, so about over here.
And the red plastic that you have labeled on the diagram as B, how far was that and what directionality was that?
That was 12 feet southeast, and that was found right here.
Thank you. Sir, if I could direct your attention to the next exhibit before your diagram number 2 of this film, if I could have that, please. And sir, do you recognize what's depicted up on the screen?
Yes, I do.
And if you could, again, using the laser pointer, what, if anything, of significance do you observe in this particular diagram in reference to the roadway evidence?
It's just essentially the same diagram. It's just a closer up version of it. So you had, yeah. So you saw the pedestrian's final rest, glass cup, plastic pieces, the shoe. It's all still depicted in the diagram.
And the red arrows that you had indicated, delineated, or depicted sort of from where the words are to where the items were, is that present in this diagram as well?
Correct.
If I could direct your attention to the next exhibit before you, and if I could have diagram 3, Ms. Gilbert. And again, Trooper, do you recognize what's up on the screen?
I do.
And if you could just describe to the jury what are we looking at in this diagram?
Yeah, so this is just a closer up to the evidence. It's a little smaller scale.
And these diagrams are created from photographs that you took with the drone overhead on that date, February 1st. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if I could direct your attention to the last exhibit within those. And again, sir, if you could, you recognize what's up on the screen?
I do.
And could you describe to the jury, again, using the laser pointer to delineate what, if anything, of significance you observed in this drone photograph and diagram you have on the screen?
Yeah, so this is from my report. It's the same diagram. Has the same amount of evidence on here. There's a house. There's a light pole here. These lines here, which I mentioned earlier, were the edge of the road and the edge of the sidewalk.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you can take that down.
All right, Mr. Lally, why don't we pause here for the lunch and recess? Trooper Paul will have you back with us this afternoon,
Thank
okay?
you.
And if you follow the jurors out, please.
Thank you.
Court, all rise for the jury.
And jurors, why don't we take 45 minutes?
You are muted.
I'll see counsel at sidebar.
Court, all rise. The court stands for the luncheon recess, 45 minutes.
Mr. Nichols and Mr. Garner, good afternoon. And Mr. Ryan and Misty Williams, good afternoon. Okay, Ms. Haltwinger, sorry, I apologize. Good afternoon, madam. All right, and then from representatives from the state, Ms. Atkins, Ms. Love, and Ms. Hilton. All right, okay. Mr. Kokomo, good afternoon, sir. All right, Mr. Youssef, good afternoon, sir. All right, I think I got all the important people, really important people. All right, okay. Where's Miss Knight?
It's her special days.
Okay, all right. Okay. All right, let's summon our jurors then, okay? All right. Bring Mr. Copeland back in, please.
Thank you.
All rise for the jury.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. All right, thank you, Officer Hudson. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, the jury, good afternoon. All right, sorry you had to compete with the vice president in traffic today, so all of you that may have had to come down here today. So without further delay, we're going to go ahead and continue with examination of our current witness. Mr. Copeland, you're still under oath, okay?
Good afternoon. All right. So yesterday we left off talking about your interview that you did on February 20th, 2015. Going back to the incident in which you, your girlfriend at the time, and your child was being shot at, do you remember seeing any of the individuals who shot at you?
I never saw no one that shot at me at that time.
Do you recall in that interview a period of time where the detective left the room and you were speaking with your girlfriend and you told her that you knew who shot at you?
I never saw nobody. I never saw who shot at me. If I saw who shot at me, I would never told the police who shot at me.
Do you recall in this same February 20th, 2021 interview that when the detective left the room, you said to your girlfriend this shit not gonna work. Sit right here and be a damn snitch, so I'm gonna keep going. Do you recall? Telling your girlfriend that?
I don't recall.
Okay. And then she responded, so, you might be effect on the listener.
I'll rule the objection, sir. I'll rule, sir.
So what you're saying is, why you acting like you did? And she said, you should have just said, no, I thought you know all of them. And you said to her, I do know who it was. Do you recall telling her that?
I know that I knew the camera. I knew that I was being recorded, so I kind of knew what I was doing.
Okay. And then you said, I saw him. I did when he jumped out the car. I know exactly who I saw.
Nobody never got out of the car, so this clearly proved that I knew what I was doing.
Do you recall telling your girlfriend that?
I don't recall what I told her.
Okay. And this was when the detectives had left the room.
I don't recall if they left the room or if they stayed in.
Do you recall further in the interview when the detectives asked you whether or not any of the people who did this had ever been to your home, you instructed your girlfriend to tell the detectives who had recently been at the house?
I don't recall what I told them.
Do you recall the detective asking anybody you let come over to the house recently that normally ain't been by there? And then you told Deshaun, tell them who been there. Do you recall that?
If I brought anybody to my house, I'm 100% sure they know not to play with me.
Okay. Do you also remember when you and your girlfriend were in the room by yourself, you told your girlfriend it was Tay and them who did this to you?
I don't recall.
Was it Tay that shot at your vehicle?
I don't believe so.
Do you recall in that same interview being concerned about being labeled a snitch?
I don't care about what I'm being labeled as.
Let me ask you this. During this time when your home was when you were being shot at with your daughter and your then girlfriend, how many other family members' homes have been shot at that year?
Objection calls for speculation and hearsay.
I'll sustain as to speculation. I will overrule as to hearsay from Mr. Steele.
To your knowledge, how many of your family members' homes have been shot up back in 2015 after Nut died?
Objection relevance.
Overrule, sir.
I can't recall.
Do you know? Okay, let me ask you this. Was your brother's home shot at?
No.
Okay. Was your girlfriend's mother's home shot at?
Yes.
Okay. Was your sister's home shot at?
Yes.
Was your grandmother's home shot at?
No.
Did you think you were being retaliated against?
Huh?
When all the shootings were happening at your family members' homes, did you think you were being retaliated against?
I didn't think.
Did you know?
Clearly.
Okay. Why were you being retaliated against?
Because people said I killed Nut.
And do you know who was doing the retaliation?
No.
Do you recall telling detective in the same February 20th interview that it was a whole gang after you?
Anytime the investigator talked to me, I do not recall what I have told them.
So you don't recall telling them there was a whole gang after you?
I would told them whatever I think that I need to tell them to convince them to stop watching me.
Was there a whole gang after you?
I don't know.
Was the entire IF gang after you?
I seen a few of them, so I can't say that.
Which were the ones that you saw?
I don't know.
Earlier, I asked you about whether you were concerned about being labeled a snitch. Do you recall telling Detective Copeland,
Detective who?
excuse me, Detective Copeland, Detective Curry,
Now I'm a detective.
or was it? I made a mistake. I'm talking
Correct.
about Detective Mr. Copeland. I'm about to ask you a question. Do you recall telling the detective, I know if I tell you what's going on, they're going to be on records and all this here, and you're going to get him locked up, and he's going to get his discovery package. First thing they're going to do is send it to two places, to the street and to prison, and float it all around the city of Atlanta, and then all around prison. But my name's over that. I'm not going that way. No, I'm not going through none of that. Look, they shot at me, my girl, and my baby. Almost shot my face off as we're running. I'm not for sure, but I thought I heard one of the bullets hit the car seat or graze the car seat. Were you concerned about snitching in this interview?
I was concerned trying to get my story together, so I was trying to buy time.
Did you also tell in that same interview, I just know the trouble I'm putting myself in. Just know I don't want to have nothing. I don't want to have nothing, man. I can't go to no job. I can't do none of this shit. I know the street not going to be here forever. All things going on right now, just waiting on you niggas to catch up and kill me. Again, not wanting to snitch on who did this to you, your child, and your baby.
My only motive was anytime the police questioned me was try to figure out how could I get myself out of it. Anytime they asked me any questions, I was trying to, if I couldn't come up with no answer right then and there, I was trying to buy time to think of something to say.
When you met with Mr. Curry, weren't you going there as a victim of an aggravated assault? When you went to go meet with the detective that's in that picture,
Okay.
weren't you going to talk with him about being a victim of a crime?
No, I was shooting back. So I thought they were going to try to lock me up for shooting back.
But during the course of that interview, were you made aware that they weren't planning on arresting you because you were protecting yourself?
When they said they would take me downtown, I put my hand behind my back and told him, you going to lock me up? Come on, get it out the way now.
And did they ever lock you up?
Because he wanted the gun. So he gave me 24 hours to get him the gun. When he let me go, I didn't come back with the gun. So they sent the SWAT team to my house to get me.
But when you went the first day, did they ever put handcuffs on you?
Because they wanted the gun.
Did they ever put handcuffs on you?
You hadn't answered the question.
Did they ever put handcuffs on you?
One of the officers pulled them out, and he told me we don't need that.
Okay, so they never put handcuffs on you?
Overruled, sir.
Did they ever put handcuffs on you?
I don't think so.
Okay. And when you left the interview, did you leave that interview without any handcuffs on you?
Yeah, I left. I went back to the streets.
So again, when you went in this interview, you were not in trouble.
I was.
Basis. Overruled, sir.
Were you arrested at all on February 20th when you went to go speak to the police about being shot at? Were you ever arrested that day when you went down to tell the police about what happened to you, your child, and your girlfriend?
They locked me up the next day.
I asked you, were you arrested that day?
No, they locked me up the next day.
Were you arrested that day?
Objection, Honor, arguing that it's the masked answer.
Overruled, sir.
Were you arrested that day?
No.
Did you want the police to go and find the people who actually killed Nut so that people would stop retaliating against you?
Yeah.
Do you recall being asked by the detective, you knew one of them. I know you knew one of them. Your face tells the story. Now, out of all the ones, I mean, you might know the other ones, but I know you know one of them because the face tells the story. Because the face tells the story of somebody being close that you trusted. And your response was, it ain't that. The truth is, I wouldn't say that person because I'm not 100% sure, but I know only one person.
What's the base of your objection, sir?
Foundation, predicate.
Okay.
Transfer.
All right. Foundation and predicate. I'll sustain the objection. Go ahead and rephrase, madam.
Did you know at least one of the individuals that were shooting at you back in February of 2015?
On my daughter's life, when that car pulled up on me, all I saw was a gun come out the window. They said, I never seen no one face. They was questioning me. They constantly kept telling me, you gonna let dudes shoot at you and your kids and this and that. And I'm telling them, and they won't believe me that I'm telling them, I didn't see nobody's face. I didn't see nobody's face. And then after a while, I got tired of them asking me, so I don't recall if I just went ahead and said, yeah, I seen Tay. I don't know how it came out, but in my heart, and still to this day in my heart, I do not believe Tay had anything to do with me getting shot at.
Okay. Do you recall telling your girlfriend when it was just the two of you, I did when he jumped out the car? I know exactly who I saw.
I don't, at that point, it was so much pressure on me. Yeah, my daughter crying, trying to take her to the hospital. Somebody pull up on me soon. I'm trying to figure out what made me have the gun to go to the hospital. It's all type of stuff going through my mind. I don't know. Too much going on. Yeah, I can't, because she keep asking me these questions and...
Mr. Copeland, just take a breath, okay? We do need to take down your testimony, so you do need to speak a little slower, all right? Okay?
All right.
All right.
Are you? Can we continue?
I don't got nothing else to say.
About which part? Regarding the gun that you used to shoot back at these individuals, who were you going to give? Which police officer were you going to give the gun to?
Huh?
Which police officer were you going to give the gun to?
Neither.
Okay. Who did you tell them you were going to give the gun to?
Whichever one they were asking for it.
Do you recall them telling you needed to give the gun to Gaither?
I don't recall. I know they said they want that gun as part of the investigation. I knew it was a trick. I told him if he let me go, I go get it and bring it back. He went for it.
And why didn't you get the gun?
Huh?
Why didn't you go and give them the gun?
You know, it helped him lock me up.
At any point in time, did you ever get arrested for shooting back at those individuals?
Thank God.
Do you recall them asking you some more questions about Tay, and you providing them information about where Tay was from, what part of Atlanta he was from?
I don't recall.
Okay. Do you recall the detective asking you, we only know there's a guy by the name of Tay. Where's Tay from? What area he live in? And you told him that he was from Simpson Road area. You recall telling the detective that?
I guess I don't remember what I said to him.
Do you recall?
Because at that point he had put too much pressure on me, and you know what I mean. I'm just thinking because he told me. I remember him saying he want that gun. That's all I remember him kept saying. He want that gun.
And when you say putting pressure, what do you mean?
Same thing you doing to me now. You keep putting pressure on me.
Okay. Was he yelling at you at all during this interview?
I think he kept saying, I'm letting people shoot at me while I got my child, and My loyalty to the streets, no, my loyalty to my child.
So was he just trying to get you to tell him who did this to you, your child and your baby?
I stand the question as a form.
Did he ever threaten you to give a name?
Nah, but he kept asking me to make me say a name, and you like how you keep asking me a question. I'm gonna say something to answer you, so you can stop asking me the same question.
Were you concerned about how you were going to survive the attacks on you and your family?
Yes.
And again, were you concerned that because you had already spoken to the police about Nuts' homicide, that people were considering you a snitch, that people thought you were a snitch?
I don't get what you're saying. Can you say that again?
Were you concerned that people already thought that you were a snitch when you did this interview
What interview?
with the detective after you were shot at? After you were shot at with your girlfriend and your daughter?
No, my only concern was no.
Do you recall telling the detective in this same February 20th interview, I left down, I came and talked down here. Everybody look at me like I'm a snitch now. It's just like I can't get no money. You know, I was just getting money just by doing nothing. It's just like, hey man, I need to borrow this right here, just hanging around, going to the mall. He paid for everything, but all of them, now they all come out here, they think I'm a snitch.
I always got my own money. When I need money, I knew how to go get it.
Would Thug give you money at times?
I'm not a handout type of person.
Would Thug give you money at times?
I never asked Thug for no money.
Would Thug give you money at times?
I can't recall if he gave me money, but I never asked him for no money.
When you said he paid for everything, who were you referencing?
The big money, the ballers.
Okay. Were you concerned that young Thug had washed his hands of you?
Huh?
Were you concerned because you had been speaking to police that Thug had washed his hands of you?
No. I didn't need Thug.
All right. Do you recall telling the detective in the same interview on February 20th, 2015, he asked you, so basically Young Thug washed his hands of you? And your response, yeah, because I came and talked to the detectives and them folks in the street saying I'm a snitch, I'm a snitch, I'm a snitch. Nobody don't want to hang around me. I called my partners. They don't want to hang around me. It's like, what the hell? What the hell all this come from? What the hell is going on? Do you recall telling the police that?
The police was so concerned about Thug, I was removing myself from him.
Do you recall at all talking to this detective about what happened that Monday night at Club Crucial with you and Kel, the fight between you and Kel?
I don't recall nothing specific that me and him talk about outside of the shooting with my child. And I barely remember some of this stuff. You talking about some years ago when I don't even know what I did 3-4 days ago. Like,
Do you recall telling your girlfriend, again, when the two of you were alone in the room, no matter which way it go, I'm going to lose anyway if I tell them that Tay did it? You recall having that conversation with your girlfriend?
Did you say it again?
Sure. Do you recall being alone in that same interview room with your girlfriend and you told her, no matter which way it go, I'm going to lose anyway. If I tell